This past summer, I made 5 years as a priest, and over those 5 years, I've moved 4 times. It's part of being a priest, right? We get moved from place to place. And every time I get moved and have to pack up all my stuff and move all of my stuff, I try to get rid of some things so that there's less to take around. And there's one thing that every time I move, I look at, and I think, do I really need this? But I can't get rid of it. I always take it with me. And it's a very small bin, kind of like I would bring to school when I was a little kid to put all my supplies in. It's a bin of cards that I've received over the years. Maybe they were congratulation cards for my ordination, or thank you cards for a wedding or a baptism or a funeral that I performed. I always carry those with me, and every once in a while I'll bring them out. If I'm having a bad day, I'll look at one of the nice ones. If I need a laugh, I'll look at one of the not so nice ones. If I'm procrastinating, I'll read them all. But I keep those with me because it helps me to remain grateful. To remain grateful that there are so many people who are thankful to me, appreciative of what I've done, of who I am, of what I have accepted as my calling. And it's important to remain grateful. There was a Harvard study that came out a few years ago that talked about how people who are grateful are happier than those who just focus on all the negative things in their life. Everything's awful. My life is terrible. Look at all these problems. Those people are statistically less happy than people who focus on things that are good in their life and are grateful for them. I bring this up because of our readings this weekend. Our readings focus on this aspect of being grateful. The gospel shows us this great story about these 10 lepers who go up to Jesus, who ask him to have mercy on them. They ask for mercy because to ask for cleansing is almost too little. In the context of the Jewish culture, to be a leper meant that you were cast out from every aspect of society. You couldn't go into the temple to worship because you were ritually impure. You couldn't be around others because you would make them impure. And they didn't want to get leprosy, so nobody wanted to speak to you. And so they had to walk around declaring to everyone that they were unclean. And so they approached Jesus asking him for his mercy, to be merciful towards them. And we hear in the gospel that one of the 10, realizing that he had been cleansed, returned glorifying God. And so there are a few important things that I want to point out just in that one little statement. And the first thing is that the leper that returned first realized that he had been cleansed. He recognized something good that had happened to him. How often do we go through our lives and good things happen all the time, but we never take the time to recognize them? From the time I woke up this morning, I could probably point out 20 things good that happened. The first thing is that I woke up. That's a great thing for me. Maybe you're not happy about it, but I am. I woke up and I'm alive. I'm thankful to the energy man who came out and restored our electricity from the second squirrel in 2 days who decided he wanted to battle the transformer. I'm grateful that it was cooler yesterday and today than it has been. And so when the electricity went out, it wasn't as big of a deal. There are so many things that we can be grateful for if we just simply slow down to recognize them. But we first have to recognize the good that has been done to us. And even if there's a lot of bad stuff going on in our life, even if someone we love has died, and we don't have a house, and we lost our job, and we can name all of these awful things that are really bad, I'm not trivializing it. They're bad things. There is always one thing that we can come back to be thankful for. The gift of our faith. The gift of salvation from Jesus. The gift of Him giving His life for us so that we could live. Right? No matter what bad thing happens to us, we still have that free gift of God. And so we should be thankful. And we see this in the martyrs, right? We see this in people who've been in concentration camps and seen their whole families murdered. They're still thankful for the gift of their faith, right? For the salvation that they have through it. The second thing that we need to recognize in that little statement is that once he realized he had been healed, he returned to give thanks. Right? He returned to give thanks. He didn't say, "Oh, I'm clean. Let me go talk to some ladies now," right? He didn't say, "Let me go and take care of this or that, or put my house in order, or take care of all the things I couldn't do while I was ill." He first returned to give thanks to the one who made him clean. He gave thanks to the one who gave him this gift of restoring him to life. Right? Life in his society. And the same thing is true in the first reading, right? We see this man, Naaman, who was the general of an army. It says he returned with his retinue. And I'm not very smart, so I didn't know what retinue meant. So I took out my phone and I searched it. And it meant his entourage, right? His people. Those with whom he was traveling. He returned with all of his people to go to this prophet who had healed him and to thank him. And it says in the reading that he wanted to give him a gift, but the prophet was reluctant, right? He didn't want to accept it. But Naaman insisted that he be able to do something, right? To return a gift to him in thanks for healing him. And how exactly did Naaman give thanks? That's the third thing that I want to point out. In the gospel, we hear that the leper returned glorifying God. And Naaman in the first reading responds saying, "All right, the gift I'm going to give, because I see the power that you have as a prophet of this God that you worship, is I'm not going to offer sacrifice to any other God but the Lord." And so the reaction to healing, the reaction to the gift received, is a returning of thanks, but particularly in the mode of worship. And that's exactly what we do. Right? What we do because of the gift of our faith, because of the free gift of grace and salvation that we've received, is we come together every single week to celebrate the Eucharist, which means to give thanks. And so we come giving God thanks for all of the gifts in our life, right? The participation of you in the Mass is that you bring all of your frustrations, all of your intentions, and all of your thanks. And by your prayer during the Mass, you offer that to God with the gifts of bread and wine. And so we come here to give God thanks for the gifts that He has given us. And we do that especially through the Eucharist, right? Through this great act of thanksgiving. I think it was John Paul II who said that we are a Eucharistic people. Right? And if that word Eucharist means thanksgiving, then we are a people who give thanks. That is one of the marks of being a Christian. That's one of the marks of being a Catholic, is that we are thankful. And so I think that we can be good evangelists, right? We can proclaim the gospel well if we are a thankful people. If we receive strength from the sacrifice of the altar, right, in receiving the Eucharist, if we receive that strength, if we give thanks for the strength that we receive, and if we, because of that thanksgiving, right, of that gratitude, that we become joyful, we become happy. And people will see this, right? Because if we're happy, if we're truly joyful, then we probably fit into the same statistics as the leper in the gospel. We're about 10% of the people. Because there are a lot of people who are not happy. There are a lot of people who like to focus on the negative things going on rather than being thankful for the good things. That doesn't mean that we turn a blind eye to really bad things, but that we have to be grateful and we have to be joyful. And if we do that, then we will attract more and more people to this great act of thanksgiving. We'll attract more and more people to the great Catholic faith that we profess with our lives.